everyone. I'm Dhruv. I'm a partner in the consumer retail and media practice at Bain India, based out of Delhi, but I keep going to, traveling all over. And let's actually get right to it. So, our panel discussion is about tech and specifically AI in retail. But first I want to start, and, Gaurav, maybe we'll start with you, just to get a reminder of where we've gone to and sort of the future of tech as you see it within retail. So in your experience, which innovations, which tech advancements have really impacted retail in a big way?
I think the trend, right, where retail is moving is it's moving towards technology, right? What the consumer wants is nothing new, right? So they are looking for that CVP, right, which is price, selection, availability. I think what they're looking for now is they want things faster. They want wide selection, much wider than what they used to earlier, and they want it at even lower prices, right? So what does that mean? I think more people, more and more increasingly are coming online, right? So consumer, तो पता ही है मतलब B2C we know, but even like Udaan, for example, right? We sell it to kirana shops, retailers, right? We see an increasing trend, right? Even in the last 5 years, where more and more of them want to come online on the app and buy, right? So the competition is, and there are a lot of players, right, who are trying to do in different verticals. So online is one big trend, right? Fast and quick is another big trend, right? So at Udaan, right, so we started with like 5 to 7 day deliveries, right? At this time, and this was for lifestyle products, clothing and stuff, right? But at this time, and then over time we experimented essentials, right? So food, pharma, FMCG, right? We were delivering faster, quicker. But at this time, we see that consumers want everything quick, right? So what Udaan does today is we offer next day delivery across a range of categories, right? So fast and quick is the next one. Uh, Third one is they have access, right? Because they're coming online, they have access to technology. They have access to pricing, right? Everywhere, right? So dynamic pricing, right? A price which changes, adapts to market, fluctuating markets, to competition, right? People want it at the best price. And lastly, right, last but not the least, consumers, whatever type of consumer, they're looking for convenience, right? So like we, like as end consumers, we want to be sitting in our home, and we want even today like groceries, fresh groceries coming to us, right? Even for us like retailers, we are seeing uh, they want easy ways, right, of finding products, finding price information, finding offers, being actually recommended something which they are probably not selling today. So I think in newer ways of interfacing with technology, right? So for example, image-based search. I see a lot of people, a lot of players, people already trying to do, right? If your app does not do it, they will go to Google Lens, right, and look at a picture, try to understand, and then search for it. Voice-based searches. For us, right, we have launched something called an OCR recognition. So one of our buyers are pharmacists, right? So pharma category. So they maintain something called a short book, right? So medicines which they're selling, they keep noting it down in a book. So this feature allows them to just scan the short book and build a cart directly from that, right? So that, I think convenience is the fourth trend, right? So I think they're going to be embracing technology, right, with whole heart. That's what I would say.
No, great. I like that. I think a lot of it was about how it all starts and ends with the customer, right? Even when you look at technology, and I love the factor on fast, quick, convenient, cheap, as big areas. So Deep, moving on to you, do you see same thing as you work with the Good Glamm Group?
So actually, yeah, obviously, whatever things that he has mentioned, and obviously is what we are doing something similar, or things. Obviously, the use cases are slightly different. But apart from the group, I feel that there are two ways where this whole AI and technology can influence or the help businesses, right? One part is where from the consumer side we add a lot of features, like say for example virtual try-on is one basic example. Then you do the live shopping and even a lot of things related to AI. But the other side where the main scale is, right, that's what I think we all should look into it. So for example, let's say ONDC is recently started getting bigger and bigger. Now think this way that it has enabled reach of this whole online commerce to even the person in small town, right? Now when someone wants to go online, there are some of the things which they don't even have. Let's say I want to put my photo of the catalog online, right? My products. I mean, they don't know how to shoot properly. They don't know how to create videos properly, right? And that's where they don't do it, right? Apart from some basic things. So now I see the next phase, apart from what we are doing from the consumer side, this side will get a lot of traction where, let's say I click a photo from my phone normally, right? Then with the help of AI, right now tools are even available, right? It will change the background. It will just make the photo look like a professional photo. It's such a basic thing, but just imagine a seller sitting in somewhere in a small place in Jaipur or anywhere, right? And he has access to these things. He can create a professional looking product shoot, right? Even though it's shot from the mobile phone. Just look at the scale then. सब लोग वही करेंगे, right? Many people will keep doing it. Just imagine the video का generative, I mean videos, AI is available later stage. Then that AI is going to create lot of impact. That's what I personally feel is the next step, where the AI, the technology has to focus on the scale. The thing that we focused will help the business and to the ones who have certain access to it. But there are things that AI or the technology should focus where people don't have access to fancy things, don't have access to spending a lot of money. These smaller things will create huge impact the way online things started initially, where people just started selling it. Now this will be the next step. That's what I personally feel.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I think sometimes technology can come across as a barrier, but what you're suggesting is that you're actually going deeper into, you know, folks who've not been part of the ecosystem, but things like AI is making it much easier. So, you know, Gaurav, to your point earlier, you talked about how image searches are increasing. Even vernacular searches, I think, are growing 5x, you know, versus last year on platforms. So yeah, getting it more accessible is quite interesting. Aashish, what about you? In your experience with the Body Shop, have you seen any interesting trends, you know, that technology has had in retail?
So the question I was asked is, what's your skin routine? You know, Body Shop, skin routine. And that was the first question I was asked after I joined the company. That was about 15, 16 months back. My response was, I shave, not anymore. But just to give you some background, I relocated to India just a couple of years back after 20 years in the US. I worked all my life in the US, Silicon Valley, California, and primarily in retail. Whether it was retail in large retail organizations or in retail services as a global C2 at Tata Consultancy Services. And I also have 11 patents in AI ML. So I understand AI, its challenges and opportunities and how it relates into retails, because all of these 11 patents are actually applied to retail use cases. I also have 8 trade secrets, which I used to launch 2 startups in Silicon Valley. Both these startups were AI ML based startups, tech-based startups in retail use case, solving retail use cases. So, see, I want to really break down into 2 or 3 different buckets for you. Bucket number 1, customer. Bucket number 2, I'll talk about tech and AI ML. So when I talk about customer, right, you really have to think about customer experience. This whole session is about customer experience, personalizing it using AI ML, right? You actually have to be obsessed with customer experience. Somebody reached out to me some time back and said, sir, obsessed is a very strong word. How about using the word passionate? I said, no, that's the point. Don't want to use the word passionate. I want to use the word obsessed because it conveys the point. You as a leader have to be absolutely, positively obsessed with customer experience. What does that mean? You map the customer journey. I'm not talking customer service. I'm talking customer experience throughout the customer journey. Omni-channel. When you're looking into retail, omni-channel is the key, right? And that's not something new in India, not new in the US at all. So we really have to understand how we'll map that customer journey using design thinking, right? and then look at every touch point from a customer journey standpoint. Omni-channel, seamless back and forth and interactions. And when you are obsessed with customer experience, only then you focus on immersive experience. When I say immersive experience, I'm talking about, you guys have seen Harry Potter, right? What do you see in Harry Potter newspapers? Pictures are moving, right? That was 15, 20 years ago. Where are we today? We are moving in that world. If you're on social media, you must have seen on news TV channels, it says that people are moving from putting their pictures to putting their reels or putting videos. Why? Immersive experience. Ultimately, we as generations or new generations are moving more towards immersive experience. That is the expectation from a consumer that we are dealing with, right? So when you're looking at immersive experience, how do you do that? Now let me talk about the second bucket. How? How do we do that? The day and age is gone when we talk about personalization, guys. If you're still talking about personalization, you're 20 years behind. Sorry. Just accept it. You are taking your company down the path of failure. You should already be thinking about customer segmentation by one. I'm talking about personalization by one. If you have 5 million customers, then you should know every customer. Not a segment of customers, every customer. That's what I'm referring to. And how do you do that? There's AI capabilities available today. Plenty. It's been there for long enough now that every company should be able to experiment with that. So if you take away anything from this session, from what I share with you, I urge you to please look into going deeper into personalization, using AI ML technologies that really segments by one. I don't want 1 million customers in one segmentation. I want customer segmentation by one, by each customer. Know them really well. And if you look at some very progressive companies in India, I'm talking India right now, even in Indian market, they're also focusing on getting personalization by one. So AI ML can help you do that. You can also achieve personalization with AR, VR. There's a lot of companies doing AR, VR. You can actually get in there, try on the glasses, you can try on different things when you are having an app experience. So all of those things are available and are expected by consumer because the generational gap is changing, right? 30 years ago, what was the generation? You said my next generation is 15, 20 years back, right? There was a gap between one generation and another, 15, 20 years. What is it today? 3 years, 5 years? Why is that? Because of the access to information. Kids have so much more access. We hear all of us say it all the time, right? That kids are so smart now. I mean, what I used to think when I was 18, they think when they're 12 or when they're 8. That's real life that we deal with. Why is that? Because of the information, the access to information they have. So I think it's very important as a society, and especially we look at it from that perspective as to what consumers are looking for and what corporations need to be doing to make sure that they are obsessed with customer experience, they're focusing on immersive experience for the consumers, and then they are leveraging the right tools and right technology in the right medium, right platforms to service that. I hope that answers the question for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very interesting. And I think I just want to pick up on that personalization point because I think what you said around it needs to come, customers are now saying, come to where I am, right? Don't make me, adopt to whatever you have on your platform, on your website, in your store. And so, just pressing a little bit more on this personalization point, I'd love to hear from you also, Debdoot, on, how Meesho is actually customizing, for each individual. How are you building your platform and addressing some of the needs of personalization? Specifically, what kind of AI, ML use cases are you even exploring or thinking about, as we think about personalization?
Yeah, so is it audible? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Gaurav talked about massive selection and exposing massive selection at affordable prices being the real game changer that internet platforms bring and what customers are expecting, right? And if you think about it, I mean, if you have, so Meesho has 1 million sellers on the platform registered, right? There are hundreds of millions of products, right? And each of these are unbranded, right? Most of it is unbranded products. So sellers are just uploading these products. How do you as a platform understand for the customer that just opened the app, what do you show to that customer, right? So you need to figure that out with personalization, right? So personalization is the only tool, and as Aashish mentioned, personalization for that particular customer. So two things. One is like having an overall understanding of what is the taste and preferences of that particular customer, and what is the customer wanting right now, right? And if you don't have context to start with, as the customer um, views different products within the same session, how quickly can you figure out the current shopping intent of the customer, right? So that's all about personalization. And if you look at Meesho, right, pretty much every step in the shopping journey, right from the notification, the push notification that goes to you to bring you onto the app, that is personalized to that individual. You land on the app, you open the home page. You'll see a bunch of widgets on the home page, and then there is a infinite for you products feed. Each of those products in the feed are personalized to that particular user. Even how many widgets to show in merchandising is personalized to the user. If you click on a product, you go to the product details page. There we show substitutes and complementary product recommendations, again personalized. Once you search, so each of these steps, um, you need to personalize, and what we have observed is, um, if you deploy basic rules, and if you get a slightly more state-of-the-art machine learning model to do the personalization, there's a very steep jump in business metrics in pretty much every context that we have deployed it, right? So yeah, I mean, personalization to that user is the only way to figure out what to show to the user. How do you meaningfully expose the massive selection that internet shopping platforms have today to each customer? And this is a journey. I mean, we are probably like 10% on that journey. If you look at it, the experience, if I come to think of it, the experience that you would get in a, if you like go to a neighborhood shopping store, there will be a shopkeeper who will guide you through the shopping journey, right? Who will constantly keep nudging you, acha, kis price pe dikhao, this color or that color, and so on. And that is where I think we need to evolve our personalization and shopping experience journeys. And that's still not there yet in majority of the platforms. Very recently, with the advent of ChatGPT, a lot of platforms are trying these assistant kind of interfaces, right? The core in assistant is that can you have an assistant, which is an AI agent, who is constantly figuring out and nudging you, right? Otherwise, even if you personalize and leave it to the user, if you don't get it correct, the user might just get bored, and then they'll just churn, right? So if the user is looking confused, they're just aimlessly browsing, you need that nudge. Hey, can I show you a different selection? And some of these are getting us into this conversational commerce, right? Which is, I would say, the next wave of personalization, and to really fundamentally disrupt shopping experiences and discovery of massive scale selection.
Yeah, I never really thought about how, when I open the app, what's showing on the home screen and why that's showing, what it's showing at a certain point of time after I've bought a certain thing. So fascinating. Vinod, what about you? Any, trends on personalization that you're seeing in your business?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So maybe I'll give a perspective which is a more offline retail perspective, because we're primarily offline. But what happens most of the time with us is the journey, because most of the customers are now exposed to internet, exposed to e-commerce websites and all the other targeted advertisements that we do with them. They start their journey online most of the times. And eventually when the journey, the entire experience has to be worked upon, it converts from an offline to online to an offline connect. And that online to offline connect is where there is a lot of juice available. Like there are e-commerce companies who are doing so much of work to ensure that the customer is eventually seeing what she is looking for. But there is also a lot of customers who are wanting to come to a store and experience the brand. And that is what is also very, very important for the customer to probably touch and feel the product and understand what the brand brings and the experience that the brand brings to the table for them. So what if essentially happens is right from the start of the experience of the customer when she is walking inside of the store, there is a lot of technology that comes into picture for her to understand. First of all, to bring her to the store. Most of the time, she doesn't even know how she has been enamored to get into the store, looking at the starting the journey online to start with, and eventually when she is inside of the store, there are a lot of opportunities of personalization there itself for her to look at, because every time she touches something, every time she looks at something, it is an interest that she is displaying. And there are technologies available using CCTV cameras and other beacons and those kind of technologies which can actually help understand that behavior of a customer and make it far more interesting for the customer when she's walking next, or maybe connect her to something which is like an endless aisle at the end of the journey for her. So she probably has experienced the brand and is looking forward.
Is that happening? Are we being watched?
No, I'm just saying that I'm not talking about my business per se. I'm just saying what is possible. So obviously that is the dream that we want to reach with technology. What we need to do eventually is to start upon what are the low-hanging fruits for us. The first and the foremost, according to me, is smarter checkouts. Why can't we do smarter checkouts for our customer using technology which is available here and now? Because if she's available online, if she has an account with you, why can't you recognize her quickly and actually make her process of checkout faster? Because that's one pain point that the customer is always worried about. I mean, she chooses everything, spends hours together to probably at times to select something that she likes, but would not want to spend obviously more than 5 minutes on a checkout counter. So that's something that is a low-hanging fruit available, because the customer digital presence is always most of the times there. Other area of work is, as I mentioned, in terms of the connecting of the online versus offline preferences, using technologies of digital kiosk and things like that, where she is able to shortlist and convert that information and receive that information inside of the store, and then use it for her own understanding of the product, and eventually using assisted sales is able to convert into an actual sale. Those are the kind of low-hanging fruits that can be clearly worked upon. So there is a lot to start with in an offline only, or an offline, predominantly an offline kind of a behavior. But it can be fueled with a lot of technology. It can be fueled with a lot of intelligence that can be brought in, because the customer is leaving a lot of breadcrumbs on the internet for us to read upon.
Got it. Wow. So I think a lot to unpack there. And as we were talking about personalization in AI, I think there's three other pillars, some of which you touched upon. So there's customization, I think there's personalization, there's also customer engagement, I think, which you mentioned. And then I'm also seeing a bunch of stuff on consumer insighting and what they're doing as they're going through the consumer journey, and then eventually the back-end operations, right? So as we now move away from just personalization to some of the other use cases on AI and ML, maybe Deep, I can go back to you on how you're seeing some of the AI impacting some of these other elements that we haven't talked about so far.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned the first time, that was for the smaller business. Now, right now the larger business, they have a lot of inventory lying around in their warehouse or even stores, and they do a lot of audit of the inventory all the time. Now, right now, the process is it's pretty simple, right? They either have a barcode scanner or something, they just scan it, they just have that, okay, it's inverted or it's there, physical already done similar way, right? Now, what I feel is, that we have been doing since ages, and no one has even thought about how can we do something really, really smartly here, right? Just think this way, that you have a pile of one single SKU, like many quantities kept there, right? Why can't you use a technology, or specifically maybe, I don't know, AI, non-AI, I don't know, I can't comment much on it, but where with a single shot, maybe from 360 degree, maybe I don't know what degree, right? The whole audit can happen within few seconds or a minute, right? That's where I feel the technology and even AI in certain action will play a major role, where these are the areas we are not even thinking, right? But operationally, these are the things which will help. I mean, think like this, right? When Apple launched iPhone, no one thought about finger touch, right? Everyone thought about, "Arey, wo stylus se chal raha hai hamara kaam," right? But when they launched, people thought, "Are these guys mad? I mean, how is it going to work?" Now, I don't think so. We use stylus anymore, right? Hardly people use it. So that's something very disruptive, right? Now here for audit, this is a very small thing but huge impact, right? And our mindset is set, mind is set in a certain manner. This is how it should be done. We are not even thinking disruptive. I mean, I'm just giving you one example where operationally, for the larger organization where they have huge pile of stock, this can just do wonders for them. I mean, that's just one example. There, operational, there can be many, many more things I feel using the technology in AI. And like I think in discussion, someone said that we are way behind India when it comes to AI, where in US it's way ahead, which I completely agree. I mean, we still haven't figured out things which were there for last 5, 6, 7 years. We are still talking about, like you said, right, segmented personalization. We are still really proud of those things. I mean, khatam ho gaya wo sab abhi, right? So we need to really move and look forward to the disruptive things, which may be smaller. Like I said, initially these can be create a huge business impact if it's done correctly and nicely. So yeah, I mean, that's my personal take that how it can help.
Correct. I think one business where you'd absolutely be dealing with a lot of inventory, is your business, right? So with Udaan, Gaurav, how have you managed, or how are you thinking about using AI for operations and for, I'll add customer service to that as well, right? Handling a bunch of these retailers and distributors.
So I'll actually take from where like Deep was saying, right? So uh, AI and technology, right? So you guys have heard how it actually comes in the app, for example, right? So you need to give the right experiences to the consumer. I think that is at the core of it, right? So we need to reach where the consumer is, what they want. App is one part of the picture, right? Next, you need to give them the right service, right? So delivery is on time, visibility, transparency, and for the company making it happen at the right cost, right? So inventory planning is actually a big one right here, right? Knowing what products to actually carry in a particular region, what quantities to carry for that consumer, and how to forward place it, right? So like I was saying, we do next day deliveries, right, for a bunch of these categories, right, across like thousands of products which are available to every pin code, right? So how do you actually forecast the demand, right? What they are going to buy, right? So I actually look at personalization as 3 parts. It's mostly around products, right? What products do my users need? When do they need it? And how do we show it to them, right? So one is, I think, what products is important, right? Selection on the app, recommendations, the right widgets, right? But to make it happen, right, make next day deliveries happen, you need to make sure ki you have got these in the right places, right? For a company like Udaan scale, across categories, there are products which I am getting from Ludhiana, from Delhi, from Tirupur, right? So all across the country, right? And from there, I'm distributing it to, again, throughout the country, right? So to service these 1,000+ cities. So keep learning, right? What are the demand patterns? How do they vary, right? Also keep learning how do you actually represent it differently for the buyers, right? Same dal might be called different in different regions, right? So tuar, arhar, right? Are examples. Rice, people call it by different names. If somebody prefers aged rice, they prefer different brands in different areas, right? So this is the second one. And third one, I think we spend a lot of time at an individual buyer level, right? Building models which tell us what their buying patterns are, right? What are they going to need next? For a particular vertical, what is their stock cycle going to be like, right? So while servicing them, we are making those, I would say, forecasts, plans, right? around how their business would actually be going, right? If they buy from us, how soon will they need to replenish it, right? So that goes a long way, right? To essentially keep a very, very tight inventory. I would say lastly, like even around fulfillment, right? So we again look at personalizing experience, right? One example would be during our deliveries, right? One of the things we've started doing is try and map the same delivery person to the shopkeeper every time, whenever possible, right? So we do our route planning, keeping that in mind, right? Because remember Udaan, right? It's these retailers, kirana shops are buying online, right? But when it is being delivered, there is a lot of very strong offline component to it, right? Where you will have instances where shops could say, oh, I did not order this, why did you give me this? Or there is credit, they have to collect cash back, right? So there is a very strong aspect of relationships. Right? Again, we try to match that, make sure that whenever possible, the same delivery guy goes, right? So our route planning, again, which is technology led, right? So not just make sure that I am actually using lesser number of vehicles, right? I'm packing them as much as possible, but I also want to give a predictable experience, right, to the buyers.
Got it. So, there's a bunch of use cases I think we've heard about, but Debdoot, I'd really like to learn from you, what do you think is going to become big, and how would you prioritize among so many of these, right? Which are the one or two priorities that you think, look, we absolutely need to start working on right away?
Yeah, so in terms of, you mentioned operations being the theme, so we covered customer in the personalization subject. But if you look at operations for a marketplace, retail marketplace like Meesho, right? There are two things. One is on the supplier side, how do you make them successful? And second is on the fulfillment side. Once you get an order, how do you fulfill and deliver it most efficiently? And Gaurav covered a lot of elements on that side. Let me begin with the supplier, right? I mean, the kind of suppliers that Meesho deals with, these are really small time businesses, right? So majority of them would probably have less than 5 employees working for that supplier. Their average monthly turnover would be around maybe a few lakhs of rupees, right? So these suppliers, if you look at this seller persona, they do not have access to complex and expensive cataloging systems. They don't even know how to price products most effectively to grow on a internet platform, right? So supplier success, how do you make suppliers and sellers on the platform successful, is a major area where technology and AI and machine learning can play a role, right? I'll give 2 examples. One is we want to make our cataloging process as simple as you take a photo of the product and you just upload it, right? Or you bulk upload using WhatsApp or something. As simple as that, and your products gets listed. The seller does not need to worry about what are the attributes in each product and so on, right? So all of that could be done by computer vision models. They can figure out what are the attributes and so on. We also give recommendations to how do you price the product, right? Hey, this product has been selling, or similar products are being sold by so many customers and they are seeing this demand at this price point. Can you help out other suppliers with such recommendations, right? So all of these help them grow. And when our sellers are successful, the demand follows, right? So that's one side. On the fulfillment side, we have major challenges in delivering the orders, because so today we are sort of delivering products in the remotest of villages, right? So even address resolution is a fascinating problem in India, right? So I'll give you a flavor of how Indian addresses look like. They will say that, hey, this is a village name. On the road to the village, 1 kilometer before the village on the highway, you turn left, you'll see a iron gate, right? You come there and you give me a call. This is exactly the address that gets written, and the products today are getting delivered. Can you imagine it? So delivery in India is more like a treasure hunt process. Can technology make it simplified, right? So like across the board in operations, it's a fascinating area. I think you look at your question on prioritization, you look at each of these areas on seller success, on fulfillment and operations. In fulfillment, frauds is a major area where technology is playing a role to catch frauds of different types effectively, right? So that's another area. So you would sort of look at each of these areas and then prioritize your bets.
Got it. Very, very fascinating. Now, switching gears, right? There's a ton of good thinking around here, but how do you then go to your organization and help them, think through the same thing, right? So how do you build that team culture that's thinking in the same direction? How do you go about fostering this, positive customer experience? So, Vinod, maybe I'll start with you, and then, Aashish, we can get your thoughts here as well.
So the key to that is actually having a customer centricity value inside of an organization. Obviously, everything, a retail organization, actually I get quite surprised at a personal level that there's a customer service department in any organization. In a retail organization, every department is customer service. What are you working for? You are eventually working for a customer, right? And that's how it should be. The entire thought process of the organization has to be centered around whether the customer is going to like this or not. And building that value is very, very important for any organization to be successful. And using technology for ensuring that the customer behavior or the customer understanding is brought in is where the key of the entire success lies for. Most of the times, the customer actually is directly or indirectly giving us a lot of things which we need to understand, use technology to understand it better, and eventually convert that into an actually explicit kind of an answer that we are looking for. Retail as an organization, if you ask me, should behave more as a retail as a service, if I may say so, compared to a software as a service equivalent, where we are here to service our customers. If we build the culture around keeping the customer in the center of everything, that really makes a lot of difference to the thought process that you're building, right from the product level to the supply chain level to eventually how you want to show the products to the customer inside of a store, and eventually the entire process or the experience inside of the store. So I think that's customer centricity is a key.
Got it. Now, Aashish, you were talking earlier, just before we met just before this session, on how you've built that in your organization. Tell us a little bit about that.
See, I'll ask you guys a question. Who is the topmost authority in any public traded company? Topmost authority. CEO, right? Shareholders, yes. Gets to them ultimately. CEO is the person who is driving the company. CEO reports to whom? The board of directors. What is the topmost priority for board of directors? Besides the shareholders, of course. And what is it the shareholders want? Thank you. Profits. There's one P, one bottom line, profits. Board of directors are focused on bringing more profitability for shareholders, correct? Now, let me take you to a different world. A world where there is a non-profit organization called B Labs. What is a B Lab? B Lab says you cannot have a single bottom line called profit. You need to have a triple bottom line, profit, people, and planet. What that means is you are willing to compromise on profit for greater good of planet and people. That's a very big statement, guys. That's a very big statement. How many board of directors would be willing to compromise on profit or product or pricing, which is not optimal for the business, but right thing to do for the planet or the people in the community they live in, environment, all that, right? B Labs certify organizations. B Labs is a global, organization, NGO, and they certify organizations which are called B Corps. If you are a B Corp certified organization, which by the way the Body Shop is, what that means is you operate with a triple bottom line mindset. Comes from the top, period, comes from the top. If the board of directors says that we will operate as a retail company and be obsessed with customer experience, with servicing our customers, with giving them the engagement that they deserve, by building immersive experience, that goes and trickles down to every part of the organization. So you really have to look at top down and bottom up, because top down is prioritization, right? Bottom up is where you build a citizen-led actual transformation, which is essential. If you really want to build the culture in your teams, in your organization, it really has to start from the top, where the priority is set that you have to focus on the customer. And when you talk about customer, you're willing to compromise on your profitability if the product is not best for the customer or the planet or for the society. So I think that mindset shift is the first basic fundamental requirement. Once you have that, things become a lot easier. But to have that is not easy, because you're really talking about fundamental shift in mindset. That's the switch I'm talking about, the mindset switch. So if we are looking at really ultimately building that customer services, a customer engagement, customer obsessed organization, then it touches everything. It's not just your online experience, it's not just your offline experience, it's not just different channels on marketplace experience, it's everything. We're talking about omnichannel. This is, we talked about omnichannel 10 years ago, right? So this is not new. So we really have to look across channels, across platforms, across time zones, across locations, all of that, and be able to service our customers to meet their needs by building that culture. And that needs to be very clearly laid out by you as a leader to your teams and upward management as well, because there are tough decisions that are coming your way on a regular basis, where the question is asked that, look, this gonna be much cheaper if you use plastic bottles as compared to one-time plastic, or as compared to a glass bottle, or something else which is a lot more sustainable for the government, for the society or the environment. So those are tough calls to make, because ultimately I believe the newer generations of customers are a lot more savvy and more empathetic and caring for the planet than people who are previous generations, including my generation or previous generations also. So there's a lot more awareness coming into play, where consumers are looking at how am I leaving a footprint behind me, and that purpose. So that purpose is very important, and I think customers, we have to respect them to know that they are smart enough that they're looking for that purpose from you, a retailer or a service provider.
Got it. Yeah, especially Gen Z. I think we ran a survey recently, and definitely those were some of the themes that were coming out. So, do we have time for questions, or are we out of time? We out of time? Okay, doesn't matter. We'll be outside. So, thank you for being a lovely audience, and thank you, panelists.